Oh shit. I'm lost for words. Um, I'm scared. Hi guys, today I am bringing you 10 books that I read in school that I really think you should check out. So a lot of you know that I actually didn't read a lot in school, but I started around 13. So that was, what year was I in when I was 13? 11, 12, 12, 13. So about year 8. Year 8 or the start of year 9, I think. So I started reading around then, and since then I picked up so many books that I read for school. I became obsessed with my library to the point of spending all of my breaks and lunches in there. It was fun. I even became a librarian's assistant for a while, and I took part in a lot of competitions where we had to read books and vote them, and then whoever won out of all of the books, because it was a load of schools in the district, whoever won got the award. And I took part in all of them, and it was so much fun, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to tell you the 10 books that I read in school that I really think everyone should check out, which is great because they're the only 10 books from school that I actually still own, because I want to read them again, or I want to read more, or they're favourites that I want to keep. So the first book that I read, which is kind of an obvious one and one that I've mentioned a few times on my channel, Certafreak by Darren Shan. Now this is the saga of Darren Shan. It is a 12-book series featuring on a young boy who comes into contact with the supernatural world of vampires, and he basically decides to join them. He doesn't decide. He is forced into joining them. And it follows his new life as a member of the undead, as a vampire. And it's a series that I love. I did a 24-hour readathon binging this entire series, and I loved it so much. It is one of those series that I love with all of my heart, and I will always reread and always go back to. And since then, I've gone on to buy the Demon Arta series by Darren Shan and the Saga of Larton Crepsley, which is actually a prequel to this. So if you have not checked out the Saga of Darren Shan, I would 100% recommend it. If you like a bit of YA mystery, supernatural fantasy, stuff with vampires and creatures, and basically this one's set in a freak show, so all sorts of weird and wonderful things. This is definitely a good one. It also focuses a lot on relationships with friends and family and found families, and it's a beautiful story, and it's one I think everyone needs to check out. Alright, the next series I'm going to recommend now because it's going to be no surprise that I'm going to recommend it, and that is the Nemesis series by Catherine McPhail, Into the Shadows. This is book 1. There is a 4-book series that I absolutely love. It is Into the Shadows, The Beast Within, Sinister Intent, and Ride of Death, and it's 4 books long. I love this series so much. This is my favourite series, and I will always love them. I can't wait to reread them. I think since school I've reread this series about 5-6 times over, and I love them so much. They are so much fun, and it's one of those series that got me into reading thrillers and mysteries, and it got me into loving books as much as I did, because this was the first kind of mystery book I read. So I'm going to read you the plot of this one, then I'll tell you a little bit more about the series. Ram has no memory of who he is. He wakes up in a darkened corridor of a tower block with no idea of how he has got there, and then the lift doors open nearby, and inside is a man, lying in a pool of blood, desperately trying to tell him something. Ram is now the murder suspect and on the run, but it isn't just the police he has to worry about. Something is moving in the shadows. Could it be connected with the dying man's last words? Or is his past catching up with him? And that is what it's about. This story starts with a young boy called Ram who has no memory at all of who he is, no memory at all of his past, up to the moment where he wakes up in an abandoned apartment block, and he finds a dead man, and he ends up the prime suspect for the murder and on the run. He's also being chased by someone from his past called the Dark Man, and the Dark Man follows him through all 4 of these stories, and it comes to a really dramatic, really fun conclusion. And one of the things I love about this is that it just follows him, it follows the mystery, it follows the story, and each book is so different, and that's one of the things I loved about it. They focus on entirely different things. So book 1, Into the Shadows, focuses on the murder of this man in the elevator. Book 2 is set in the moors, and there's a creature on the moors killing people and bodies are turning up. Book 3 is set in around a town where there's some sort of like alien invasion, and the people in the town are quite worried and things about this alien invasion and whether it is aliens, whether there's something else going on. And then book 4 is the conclusion about Ram desperately trying to figure out who he is. And it is an all-time favourite series, and now I've discussed them, I want to read them all over again. But definitely check these out. These are really cheap on Amazon. If you look for them, I think it's about £3 a book. Like, they're not very well known, and it's something I really want to be very well known. Definitely check them out. You can get the entire series, I think, because I'm sure when I checked, the entire series came to about £9 for all 4 books. And I love them so much, and I think it's just it's a series everyone needs to check out. If you like a bit of thriller, if you like the mystery, if you like how dark it sounds, and you love a YA, go for it. I would definitely recommend it. It is so fun. It's darker than something like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It's really dark. It fits the YA theme really well, but it balances such a dark adult theme as well. It's really good. Please check it out. Next, another series that I have spoken about many a time on my series, and that is Numbers by Rachel Ward. This series is so good. I loved it so much. This was a very interesting story, and I can't even begin to explain why I love it so much. So I'm just going to read you the blurb of this one and then explain the other two. Since the day her mother died, Jem has known about the numbers. When she looks into someone's eyes, she can see the date they will die. Life is hard, until she meets a boy called Spider. Suddenly, her world seems brighter. But on a trip to London, Jem foresees a chain of events that will shatter their lives forever. Now, this book follows a girl called Jem who can see the dates that people would die, as I've said, and she meets this boy called Spider and finds out fairly quickly, just by looking in his eye, that he only has a few months left to live. And she decides to befriend him and really just try and make him enjoy his final days. And then they go to London, and as they're queuing for the London Eye, Jem looks around and sees everyone around her in the queue has the same date. And that date is the very day. And it's all about the mystery of what's going to happen. And then when it happens, is Jem to blame, or people think she's to blame because she's seen fleeing the scene and trying to get people away. It's a really good mystery. It's got the sci-fi element of seeing the dates people will die. It's really good. It is so much fun. And then it follows on with book 2, which is The Chaos, and book 3, which is Infinity. And it develops so well into this big sci-fi story. And it really does develop. The characters develop so well. The whole concept develops so well. The whole idea of the numbers, that entire storyline develops. It's really good. It's really fun. And again, they're not very well known. And I don't think any of these books are going to be extremely well known. I think perhaps the most well known one would be the Darren Shan saga. So I would definitely recommend checking these out. If you like a bit of a YA sci-fi mystery book, this is definitely the one to go. It is very dark. It is very fun. And I can't wait to reread it again. I just want to reread all of these. Okay, next. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not going in any particular order. Next is a book I read that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed this one a lot, but it's one of those stories that I don't remember. So I think I'll enjoy it again if I go, because I don't remember all the details. And that is Titanic 2020 by Colin Bateman. Now, this is actually a really interesting story. Reading it in 2020 is quite depressing, but it kind of makes me more intrigued. So again, I'm going to read the back, and then I'll tell you a bit about the series. Everyone said the original Titanic was unsinkable. Shows how much they knew. Everyone says the new Titanic is unsinkable. But there's worse things than drowning, as stowaway Jimmy Armstrong and rich girl Claire quickly find out. With a mysterious, incurable disease spreading rapidly, infecting the population, being at sea seems the safest place to be. And then the sequel is following on from that. Basically, this story is about a young boy that stows away on a ship called the Titanic, and there is a disease going around. Shit. This is creepy. Oh my god. Did this book predict Corona? Oh, I'm scared. I'm lost for words. So this story follows a young boy called Jimmy who stows away on a new boat called the Titanic. It is the relaunch of the Titanic. It is set in the year 2020, and a very deadly and incurable disease takes over the Earth's population. And suddenly, being on the boat is probably the safest place to be, because they can't interact with the people infected. I don't know how to feel. Maybe if you're a bit sensitive to the pandemic currently going around, I would not recommend this book quite yet. But if you actually don't mind that and you like reading books about stuff like that, because I've seen quite a few people who said reading a book in a pandemic about a pandemic is actually really interesting, I would give this a go. I would class this as a middle grade. I don't really know what I class it as. It's like a high middle grade young YA. Because I read this later on in my reading. I think I was about 15 and I felt it was a bit more childish for me than I wanted at that time. So I'd class this as a middle grade, but it just covered some very dark things more than in ways that middle grades probably don't and YAs do. So a very young YA, very high middle grade is how I'd class it. But there is Titanic 2020 and then Titanic 2020 Cannibal City. I really need to reevaluate my life, and I think I need to read these books again. Can't believe I've only just realised. Oh my god. So again, I'm going to move on. I'm still shaken from that last one. I really am. The next book I would recommend is one that turns out no one has heard of, apart from Siobhan. The only person I know of who has actually heard of this series before is Siobhan. And that is Scared to Death by Alan Gibbons. This is definitely a YA horror. It's kind of like a supernatural horror. It is really fun. I loved it. I loved reading about this book in particular. I'm going to be honest, there are 4 books in the series. There is Scared to Death, Demon Assassin, Renegade, and Witchbreed. And I haven't read the following 3, but I do own all of them. But I've only read the first one. So I'm going to read out the blurb again, and I'm just going to give you a bit more information about it. You sent me into eternal darkness. I want nothing less for you. Deep beneath the slick, sour city, a dark heart stirs, seeking chaos. Deep inside an ordinary teenager, a secret, deadly power is emerging. When Paul meets the enigmatic Redman, he begins a hell-raising journey that takes him from the streets and subways of London today back to the city slums in the realm of Jack the Ripper, and into the horror of Hell's Underground. Now, this series is called the Hell's Underground series, and I really love this. From what I remember of this book, because I haven't read them in ages because I wanted all of them so I could do a binge, and I've only recently just got the final 2, which annoys me because I ordered them in mass market paperback size, and they're all different sizes. It's so stressful. But in Scared to Death, people around Paul start dying for no reason. They literally just stopped living, and it's because they are being literally scared to death. Hallucinations are causing them to see things that frighten them. They see their biggest fear and they die of fear. And it is so good, it is so interesting, and I can't wait to carry on the series. I can't give you my full recommendation of the entire series, saying it's definitely worth a go. I haven't read it, I don't know. But if the rest of the series is like the first book, it is a series I'm going to want to read, and it's a series that I'm going to love, and I'm really excited. I would definitely check this out. Again, these are not very well known. I found these final 2 for, I think, £4 each on Amazon, so it's not too expensive. And then these ones I think are more popular than the final 2, so I would definitely give this series a recommendation if you want to read a bit of a YA horror, because it definitely covers that area. And next, it turns out that I have 6 book series on here. None of them are standalones, apart from these final 4. But the 6th book/series I would recommend is Maximum Ride by James Patterson. Now, this book, The Angel Experiment, was the first book I ever read. Yeah, the very first one. So it always holds a special place in my heart. It was the first book I ever read, first James Patterson I ever read. The Maximum Ride series follows a group of young teenagers who are all part of an experiment. They have all been genetically modified and they all have wings. I think they're part human, part bird. I'm going to read out the blurb. That can explain it better than I can. Do not put this book down. I'm dead serious. Your life could depend on it. I'm risking everything by telling you, but you need to know. Strap yourself in for the thrill ride you'll want to take again and again. From Death Valley, California to the bowels of New York City's subway system. You're about to take off on a heart-stopping adventure that will blow you away. Max, Fang, Iggy, Nudge, the Gasman and Angel. 6 kids who are pretty normal in most ways, except that they're 98% human, 2% bird. They grew up in a lab, living like rats in cages, but now they're free. Aside, of course, from the fact that they're prime prey for erasers, wicked wolf-like creatures with a taste for flying humans. The missions? Rescue Angel from malicious mutants. Infiltrate a secret facility to track down the flock's missing parents. Scavenge for sustenance. Get revenge on an evil traitor. And save the world, if there's time. And, yeah. As I said, it is a sci-fi, YA, fantasy, thriller. Very big combination. About a group of teenagers who have wings and they're being hunted by creatures, and all they want to do is save their family. And I think really, from what I remember, they just want to be normal. And it is such a good book series. I think I read the first 2 in the series, but I haven't read any others. This is the only one I remember. I don't even remember the next one in it, but I just please, for me, read it for me, just cause. So the next book I'm going to recommend is Shadow Forest by Matt Haig. This story was one of the first ones I've read. Not the first one, but pretty close. Samuel Blink is the hero of this story, but he doesn't know it yet. Right now, he and his sister Martha are in the back of his parents' car. He has no idea a giant log is about to fall from the sky and change his life forever. He doesn't know that he and Martha will be forced to move to Norway and eat their Aunt Ida's smelly brown cheese. He hasn't the slightest clue Martha will disappear into Shadow Forest. A forest full of one-eyed trolls, a sinister Hulda folk, deadly truth pixies, and a witch who steals shadows. A forest ruled by the evil Changemaker. A forest so dangerous that people who enter never return. No, Samuel Blink doesn't know any of this, so don't tell him, it might ruin the book. This is a middle grade about, as it said, a tragedy happens and these 2 children are forced to go to live with their aunt in Norway, and the sister of our main character goes into the forest, and it's a forest filled with creatures, and it's very well known, if you go in, you don't come back out. This is a fun middle grade fantasy. It's cute, it's fun, I really loved it, and it was kind of my first dip into fantasy as well, but also just one of the first books that I read, and I loved it, I just wanted more, and it was great, and read it. And next we have The London Eye Mystery by Siobhan Dowd. Now, I don't know too much about this. I remember reading this, and this is very much a mystery. It is so fun. It's kind of like The Famous Five, but not. Monday, 24th of May, 11:32 a.m. Ted and Kat watch their cousin Salim get on board the London Eye. The pod rises from the ground. Monday, 24th of May, 12:02 p.m. The pod lands and the doors open. People exit. But where is Salim? When Auntie Gloria's son Salim mysteriously disappeared from the sealed pod on the London Eye, everyone is frantic. Has he spontaneously combusted? Ted's theory. Has he been kidnapped? Aunt Gloria's theory. Is he even still alive? The family's unspoken fear. Even the police are baffled. Ted, whose brain runs on its own unique operating system, and his older sister Kat overcome their prickly relationship to become sleuthing partners. They follow a trail of clues across London in a desperate bid to find their cousin, while time ticks dangerously by. Yeah, this is a really good mystery about a young boy that goes missing on the London Eye, and people are trying to figure out where the hell has he gone, because he's in a pod in the London Eye. I don't know if there is anyone who doesn't know what the London Eye is, but it's basically a big circle, and you get in, you go all the way around, and then you get out. There is no way to disappear, but someone does. And it's a mystery about finding out what happened to this kid. Where has he gone? What happened? Is he going to be found again? Who knows? Read the book to find out. Next, I'm going to recommend The Black Book of Secrets. This is a book I've wanted to reread for so long because I remember on my first read of it, it was one of those books that I enjoyed, but it freaked me out, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it because it freaked me out. But it's one that I've always kept because I thought, you know what? You are going to want to reread this one day. And I really do. When Ludlow Fitch suffers an unspeakable betrayal, he runs from the rotten, stinking city. On the night he enters Pagus Parvus, a second newcomer arrives at the remote village. Joe Zabadoo, a mysterious pawnbroker who buys deepest, darkest secrets, is searching for new customers and for an apprentice. Shadowy Ludlow seems perfect for the job, but as he begins his new life recording the village's fiendish confessions, Ludlow's murky past threatens to come into light. Yeah, it's all coming back now. Yeah, this is a story about a mysterious man that buys people's secrets from them. So he's like a pawnbroker. If you have no money and you want to sell something to get some quick cash, he will buy your secrets. And it's really good because you see it from the perspective of this character who becomes the apprentice and kind of learns what's going on. So fun, so mysterious, quite creepy. I really enjoyed it. Give it a go. So the final book I'm going to recommend is one that I've mentioned on this channel before, but it's one I wanted to leave till the end because I really think people need to pick it up. And that is Ways to Live Forever by Sally Nichols. I can't explain how much I love this book. It's one that I've read about 3 or 4 times since school, and every time I read it, I cry. I really do. Now, I was going to read the blurb, but the blurb's quite boring. It doesn't actually tell you anything. So I'm going to read it out anyway, but I'll give you a full detail of what this story's about. My name is Sam. By the time you read this, I will probably be dead. Sam wants to know about UFOs and horror movies and ghosts and scientists and how it feels to kiss a girl. He also needs answers to the questions nobody will answer. See, it wasn't the best. This story follows a young boy called Sam who is dying from terminal cancer. And he decides before he dies, he wants to make a bucket list and do things because he thinks by doing this, he will live forever in the memories of the people around him. And this book is called Ways to Live Forever. It is finding a way to live forever in the memories of those who love you and not being forgotten once you've passed on. And he is a young boy, and it's heartbreaking to read about him dying of cancer and wanting to live his life when he was so young. It really shows an injustice for young children who are ill, anybody that's ill, but especially young children who haven't gotten to live their life. And it's one that whenever I read it, I cry. I love it so much, but it's one of those heartwarming stories. It is so powerful, but so heartwarming, and I would 100% recommend it. It is beautiful. So, that was dramatic. Those are the 10 books I read in school that I would 100% recommend that you guys check out. It is a lot of fun. I'm going to go and have a bit of an existential crisis over the Titanic 2020 thing, because I'm still shooketh. And I really want to read all of these series now. I need to put priority in reading these series because I'm getting such a feeling of nostalgia going back to them. And I can't wait. I need to read them. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you've checked these out. If you have ever heard of any of these books, let me know, because these are books, to my knowledge, that a lot of people haven't heard of. And I would love to know that there are people out there that know that these books exist. If not, let me know what you think. Is there any that you actually fancy picking up? Please let me know, because I would love to know that I've encouraged people to actually read these books as well. But that is all from me. So thank you for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys later.